Hi, my name is Alex Dolphin. Welcome back to another episode of Ex Ante. Today we're going to discuss the case of People v. Conley. This case was heard in an Illinois appellate court in the year of 1989. Let's go ahead and jump into the facts of the case. So Conley is prosecuted by the state for aggravated battery. All right, so what had happened was there was a high school party. A bunch of people were drinking at this high school party, and there was a gentleman by the name of Sean O'Connell, and he had a friend named Marty. These two people were at this high school party. They were drinking, other people were drinking. They kind of got into a little tussle, and O'Connell and his friend Marty left the party. O'Connell and Marty are walking down the street when they hear themselves be called. The person who's calling them is our defendant in this case, Conley. Conley says, "Hey, what are you doing? Stop, hold up." And Conley goes up towards them, and he has a wine bottle. Anyways, altercation takes place. Conley gets mad. Conley takes this wine bottle and he tries to strike at Marty. So he tries to get this wine bottle and he tries to strike at Marty. Marty ducks. All right, Marty ducks. And so what happens is Marty's friend, O'Connell, is hit by this wine bottle. O'Connell sustains pretty serious injuries. His face is broken in a couple of spots. He has chipped teeth, and he's diagnosed with a permanent condition called mucosal mouth. The court leaves an interesting footnote that we don't really know what mucosal mouth is, but he's seriously injured. And so the state brings charges against Conley, and they say, you committed an aggravated battery. So it's important that we understand the definition of an aggravated battery so that we can understand this case. Illinois Criminal Code defines a person who's committed aggravated battery as a person who, in committing a battery, intentionally or knowingly causes great bodily harm or permanent disability or disfigurement, right? So permanent disability or disfigurement are a necessary component, and the intent to cause permanent disability or disfigurement. Those two things in conjunction constitute an aggravated battery. So Conley pushes back on his conviction in the trial court. Conley says, hey, you know what? I didn't intend to cause a permanent disfigurement. I was just swinging the wine bottle, right? And I didn't really even intend for it to hit O'Connell because Marty ducked. So I wasn't really intending to cause this permanent disability, this permanent disfigurement. And the court ultimately rejects that. They say, you know what, you had the necessary mens rea, the guilty mind, for us to charge you with aggravated battery, or for the state to charge you with aggravated battery, because it's clear from the circumstances all around you that you did intend to hit him with the wine bottle. And if you intended to hit someone with a wine bottle, you should be practically certain that there's going to be some type of permanent disability or some type of permanent disfigurement that will come along with that. The court talks about a little bit of the difficulty with mens rea, being that guilty mind, and how an objective outside observer can basically inject themselves into the mind of the criminal and find out whether or not they did have that criminal intent, that guilty mind. And what the court ultimately says is that, we can't ever assume the point of consciousness of the criminal. But what we can do is we can look to the outside circumstances and look to the evidence and look at what that person did. And from that, we can do our best to infer the criminal mind or the mens rea. And they say at a certain point in time, there's going to always need to be some type of an inference. And we are just going to make that inference based upon the evidence around the criminal. And if it becomes apparent based upon that evidence that we can infer that there's a guilty mind, then we're going to go ahead and convict and say that there was the mens rea necessary for the criminal offense. So that's the case. Conley fails on his challenge against the statute, against the definition of, and he fails in trying to prove that he didn't have the necessary criminal intent to cause a permanent disability or permanent disfigurement to O'Connell in this instance. So it's just interesting to think about mens rea. It's interesting to grapple with this problem. It is a problem in the criminal law that we can never actually get into the mind of the perpetrator. We never really know perfectly what he intended to do. We'll never know if our defendant here, Conley, really just intended to kind of scare them or threaten them with this wine bottle, and that he didn't really intend to actually hit them. Right? We will never be able to know that. But what we have to do is we have to infer from the evidence surrounding his circumstances. And there's certain problems where we might get it wrong. We might not be able to actually see into that perspective of that criminal and find out that they were actually espousing a criminal mind or a guilty mind in that instance. And we do have to, rely upon some assumptions and some external evidence to try and see that guilty mind. I mean, I think that is a problem in the criminal law, and I think that we have to get closer and closer and do our best to see that there is actually a criminal mind there. I mean, it's a difficult problem because it is literally just a problem of you will never have access to the direct thoughts of the criminal. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye-bye.